Of Torah Ohr, welcome. So today we're continuing the Maimer of Zachar, explaining the role of what Amalek tries to do and how we have to overcome Amalek. We spoke about how through reflecting on Hashem Echad, how Hashem is one, the only real thing, we can develop this deep love of Hashem and pleasure in Hashem. And now we're starting today from Ach Ketzad, the last paragraph on the final column of Daf Pei Dalet. But how can a person reach this revelation and this love? Because we are stuck in the spiritual exile of Egypt, meaning that the godliness within our soul is concealed, and our interest and our excitement is in worldly pleasures, as everyone knows inside themselves. So how do we transform so that our excitement and our love should be love of Hashem, that we love Hashem like our very being? So the solution is through the pasuk that talk in the beginning of Beshalach that says Vayasef Elokim Es Midbar Yamsuf, that Hashem made the Jewish people not go straight to Eretz Yisrael, but instead turn and go through the desert. And the idea of desert is explained in another pasuk, the famous pasuk Zacharti Lach Chesed Noraich, that Hashem says, "I remember the love of your youth, when the Jewish people were young. Lech Techachrei Bamidbar, to follow after me in the desert." So we see that the idea of a desert is connected to following after Hashem, because sometimes we are panim b'panim, we're face to face with Hashem, but other times we're after Hashem, where we're not so inspired, but still we follow after Hashem. There's in the Nevuah of Yecheskel, it talks about Ksuva Panim V'achar, the scroll that is written on the front and the back, and like it says about Moshe, Hashem says to Moshe, "V'isas achari, you'll see my back." So there's within holiness and revelation of Hashem, there could be either Panim or Achar, the front, the face, the front or the back. Similarly, in our neshama, in our soul, there's also the face and the back. The face is the pnimis halev, the internal part of the heart, where it's clearly manifest that Hashem is one, and Hashem is our vitality, our life force, and in that level, the neshama's whole pleasure is Hashem. Then there's Achar, where there's not so much revelation, and he doesn't feel the same pleasure, but nevertheless he forces himself and his heart to be drawn after Hashem. And that's the meaning of the pasuk that says La Soy Salavan Parshas Eikev, to make yourself. Here the Alter Rebbe translates it to make yourself love Hashem. In other words, that it's not what you would naturally be drawn to, but you're through focusing your mind on thoughts that will develop this love of Hashem, you can bring yourself towards a somewhat of a love and an excitement of Hashem. That it should, but even so, even though you've developed this love, but since it's only because you know that that's the right thing, it's not something that you're naturally drawn towards, so it's not going to fill your whole heart. That you want nothing else. It will just be that it's enough to control klippa, to control the impure part of ourselves, and it's only iskafia, not ishapta. It's only subduing the forces of klippa, but not transforming it to holiness. Now one can understand that even if he works to develop a powerful love of Hashem with all your heart and all your soul, but still, since it's only been developed because he's forced himself to do it, so he hasn't killed the klippa, he's only put it to sleep. And this is like the conversation between Yaakov and his children before he passed away, that Yaakov was worried about their spiritual state, and they said, Shema Yisrael, listen, our father Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad, that Hashem is our God, Hashem is one. That, and what they meant to say is that just like the Gemara says that just like in your heart there's only Hashem, so in our heart there's only Hashem. But there's still a difference between Yaakov and the Shvatim, because Yaakov, that was his natural state. He was a soul from the highest spiritual world, from Atzilus, and all he wanted was godliness. Whereas with the Shvatim, it was they were souls from within the worlds of Bria Tirasiya, and so they had to work to reach this level, and therefore it wasn't their natural state. And this could be a path that we can follow, like the Shvatim. We're regular people, but we can realize that this is the right way, and this is what we should be drawn towards, and then try to create a feeling for the Hashem, and desire to be connected to Hashem, and to have strong resolve to break all other taivas and all other desires, and focus with the mind controlling the heart on subduing all that, and just being drawn towards Hashem. And then if we merit, we might be gifted with his hapcha, with this transformation, and that's actually what we naturally want, like a tzaddik, that all he wants is Hashem. And then we will have a revelation of Hashem inside our heart, and then it won't be achar, won't be the back anymore, but it will be panim pnimis, the inner side, the face. And like the pasuk says, that that your ears will hear something from behind you, to say that this is the path, meaning that we start off from achar, from behind the back, and then from that we come to the path, and where Hashem is revealed in an internal way. And because it's so important to start off with resolve even when we're not fully there, so that's why Kriyashma, the reciting of Shema, is the time of Kabbalah's Shemaim, accepting the yoke of heaven, which is about iskafia, about subduing the bad, even before we come to a level of actual transformation. Next paragraph, Hine El. So now this yoke is the yoke of Malchus Shemaim, the kingdom of heaven. So the idea of Malchus is to create an other, that there should be something outside of just Hashem. The pasuk says in Ashrei Leidil Bnei Adam Kvorei Sevachvei Hadam Malchusai, to inform a man of Hashem's strength and the honor of the glory of his kingship. So the pasuk mentions Malchusai, that Hashem's kingship, and that the kingship is related to Gvurais of his strength, related to Gvura, that Hashem has to conceal his presence and contract his light in order to allow for there to be something outside of Hashem. And it says that Ein Melech B'Am, there's no king without a people. Is about being something separate. To allow for that, allow for kingship, because really there's only Hashem. But Hashem conceals his presence to allow that he should be king over separate beings. And just like Hashem uses Gevura to restrain his own light, so do we have to respond with strength, with restraint, that like to follow the mitzvah that we say in the third paragraph of Shema, not to stray after our heart, that we close our eyes not to look at things we shouldn't, and just like in Surah Meirah in the negative, so too in the positive, to do more than we want to, that even if we are used to learning a certain amount of times, to learn one more, like it says to learn 101 times instead of the regular 100 that they used to learn in those days. So the extra time is, again, it's subduing himself because it's against his nature. And through that Gevura, so that's how we accept Hashem as king over us. Next paragraph, V'hinei al yidei. So this is how we fix up the damage of Amalek, because it says that Amalek makes Hashem's name and Hashem's throne incomplete. And then through this, we make Hashem's name complete and his throne complete. Hashem's name is Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, and it's incomplete when the Yud-Kei, the Yud and the first Hey is separated from the Vav-Kei. The Yud-Kei represents Daatkesיא, the hidden worlds, and then Vav-Kei is Daatkesיא, the revealed worlds. Because Vav is about bringing down, that it should be revealed. Now, the pasuk says, the heavens and earth I fill, says Hashem, meaning that the Hashem filling the heaven and earth is from the level of Hashem speaking. The word of Hashem, which is Malchus, speech, which comes after all the midas, all the intellectual and emotional attributes. Then at the end is speech where you reveal it to others. And Hashem revealing himself to us is through our efforts, that we should try to develop an Ava Hashem, a love of Hashem, even when it doesn't come naturally, through Mashal Leib, through the mind controlling the heart. And then we will hopefully be lucky to also have Pnimis Leib after the back, where it's a bit forced. Hopefully we'll come to the internal part of the heart, that it should be our organic desire, that all we want is Hashem and it's welling up within us, because the impurity within us is being transformed. And then through our Ava, our love, so that awakening from below then elicits an awakening from above, from Hashem, that Yud-Kei, Hashem as he is beyond, in the hidden worlds which are beyond us, comes down into the revealed worlds, which are called Vav-Kei, and then Hashem's name is complete. And similarly, Hashem's throne is complete. The idea of a throne is connected to Malchus, kingship, which is where at the level which independent others are acknowledged. And the idea of a throne is Malchus sitting down, in other words, lowering of Malchus. Now, what's the idea of sitting spiritually? So it's about bringing down to a lower level, just as when a person sits down, so he's lower physically, so too spiritually, that he sits and he bends his back. Doing all the mitzvahs, all the commands, which in a physical way, that's the level of acharayim, that's the back, that we don't feel it, we're not inspired, but we do it anyway. And even when we're doing it only from the back, in other words, we don't have it internally, it's not our natural love, but still, it's still the mitzvahs are still the limbs of the king. And when you hold someone's arm, you're pulling the person's very self. So even through the external of the mitzvahs, just practically doing them, we bring down Hashem himself. Next paragraph, achine. Okay, so there is these two levels of panim and achar, the inner and the external, the back, in holiness and in unholiness. So just like in holiness, you could do it even when you're not fully up to it, and that's in the holy way. So then there's the back, also in klippa, which is Amalek. That's why he's called Amalek. It comes from Amalek, the nation that cuts off from the back of the neck. And Malika was used sometimes in the Beis Hamikdash to slaughter an animal from a bird from the back of the neck. So the idea is again, it's connected to the back and the neck, because we use out the neck in a positive way. It says that Moshe asks Hashem to forgive the Jewish people, ki am kshei erefo, because they are stiff-necked people, as Chassidus explains. That from the level of the back of the neck, meaning we do things even when we're not inspired, that's why they should be forgiven. Because we stand strong and determined, and even when we're not quite there. And the idea of the neck, and especially the back of the neck, so it connects the mind and the heart. But the idea is that the person realized in his mind should spread out throughout his body. And and to transform himself, that he should actually want with his whole being. In other words, it should be organic, his natural self, that he should just want Hashem. Whereas Amalek is the exact opposite, that even though he realizes that the right thing is to follow and be drawn after Hashem, but Amalek says, I don't care, I don't want to do that anyway. And on the contrary, he does the exact opposite. And that's why Amalek attacked the back of the people. It says that Amalek attacked those who were stumbling back in the end of the Jewish people. So he was focused on the back, which is where he could be effective. In other words, not where we're at the level of pnimius, we have internal, deep, organic love of Hashem. There, Amalek wouldn't be successful, but he focused on the back. And to be the exact opposite, that even though he knows what's right, he has chutzpah, he has this audacity to go against that anyway. Like we said, that Amalek is from the word Amalek, the nation that cuts off the back of the neck, to cut off that connection between what we know in our mind and what we feel in our heart and do in our body. Amalek saw all the miracles, and they saw clearly that Hashem is helping Yisrael, the Jewish people, but still they had the audacity to step forward and fight. Pare, on the other hand, he says, Lo yadati es Hashem, I don't know Hashem. So he had a sort of an excuse. Why is he opposing godliness? Because he hadn't seen revelation. And when that kept going, even after the Marcus, that was because his heart had been hardened. Otherwise, he would have given in. And in general, Klippa and Goyim that oppress us, it's because the holiness and Hashem is hidden from them, and they're sunken into Klippa. Whereas Amalek is different. Amalek knows Hashem, but despite that, goes against it anyway. Now, one of the mitzvahs that the Yidden had when they came into Eretz Yisrael is to get rid of Zari Shel Amalek, the seed of Amalek, because Amalek plants this seed of obstinate going against what we know to be true within us as well, within the Jewish people. And we have to cut it out and destroy that. And that's why, just as we have the exodus from Egypt in every generation and every day, so do we have to cut out this Amalek every day. So during Galus, during the time of exile, we're following after Hashem because there's not the same degree of revelation of Hashem like there is during the Beis HaMikdash. So because we're going after Hashem, so we can't really destroy Amalek, and therefore we rely on Hashem saying, that I will destroy the memory of Amalek. And this is the war for Hashem, the war of Hashem against Amalek, because we wouldn't be able to do it ourselves. Because all we can do is ask Hashem for mercy to destroy the Amalek in us, that stubbornness to go against what we know to be right. But then when Hashem clears the land for us and brings us to Eretz Yisrael, the Eretz Teva Rechava, the good and broad land where we're able to have, where it's flowing on milk and honey. The honey represents this natural pleasure in Hashem. We're able to have a deep love of Hashem in a way of pnimius, internal. So then we're not just coming from the back, but internal. So then we'll be able to destroy Amalek as ourselves. Amalek, we can destroy the memory of Amalek, and Leib Sishkach, he shall not forget, because the idea of forgetfulness comes from the back, whereas pnimius, when we're in an internal relationship, then there's no forgetfulness. And only originally when we leave Egypt, then we're still just doing things even without being fully there emotionally. But once we get to the spiritual Eretz Yisrael, so then we're above this, and then we can destroy Amalek ourselves. Now we'll continue the beer on the Maimer, the Kabbalistic explanation on the Maimer. So we quote in the Maimer that Hashem's name is not complete and throne is not complete until Amalek is destroyed. So Hashem's name is in the spheres, the emotional attributes of Atzilus, whereas the throne is in Malchus, which goes down to enliven the lower worlds. So to have Hashem's name complete is through when intellectual spheres, Chachma and Bina, come down into Zah, into the emotional midas, and the link between them is das, which makes the ideas in the mind personalized, and then divides it into the two sides, right and left, chesed and gvura, love and reverence. And then the throne, like we said, is malchus, and the soul is compared to malchus, which receives light from Hashem, and when it's working well, so then the neshama receives an internal way from Yisrael, which is the word Yisrael comes from sarisa im Elokim, that it's beyond Hashem's name Elokim, Hashem's name within worlds and within nature. That there should be this internal revelation in our neshamas that we should realize, and we should sense how our life force is godliness, and our soul pleasure should be Hashem, and that's the meaning of the land flowing with milk and honey, that the honey is that sweetness and pleasure in Hashem. But during what does this spiritual exile in Egypt represents when Malchus descends into Biyah, into the worlds of where there's some seeming independence from Hashem. And over the page, and at that stage, Malchus is below the other spheres. It's just a dot below the emotional attributes ending in Yesod. And then Malchus elevates back up, first to be back to back with the other spheres, and then to be even face to face. This is the idea of following after Hashem in the desert, which is back to back, to follow Hashem even when we're not fully emotionally there. And this is when we reflect about Hashem to the degree that we come to a realization that the appropriate thing that is to have a love of Hashem. We don't naturally feel it, but our mind still forces our heart to a certain degree. And at that stage, Klippa is only subdued. Then we work to develop Ava b'chol levavcha v'chol nafshecha, with all our heart and all our soul. But despite our best efforts, it's never fully there. We don't have this pleasure in Hashem. We just know that this is what we should be drawn to and try to develop some level of feeling. But then when we get to a stage of panim b'panim, we're gifted with the internal relationship, so then we really feel it. And then Hashem's name is complete and his throne is complete. Like we said, the throne represents Malchus, the completion of Malchus, because really there's nothing but Hashem, so there's no one to be king over. But Hashem decided that he wants to be king, and therefore made it tzimtzum, a contraction, that his light shouldn't be visible, and that allows for a feeling of yesh, of separate existence. And we have to work the same way, in a way of tzimtzum, that to go beyond our capacity. We want to learn a certain amount, learn more, like we said in the Maimer, and similarly with Torah. There's panim and acher. There's the internal and the back, which is the external. The external is the mitzvah practically. We have mitzvahs, tefillin, it's for parashiyos and different compartments. And then the internal is what they represent, that the parasha of Kadesh is Hashem's light of Chachma, the parasha of Bahaya Ki V'Yachas is Hashem's light of Bina, etc. And similarly with Sukkot, so the schach could either be simple vegetation that you put on the roof, or the spiritual meaning of it, which is it represents a light of makif in the Bina, which this deeper, all-encompass, like a surrounding light of Hashem, an encompassing light, which that's the pnimis of the mitzvah. And in the pnimis, in the internal of the mitzvah, that's where there's pleasure. And moves us from we've lucky if we can move from a state of acher b'acher back to panim b'panim to face, And this is why Moshe praised the Jewish people as that they're a stiff-necked people. It doesn't seem to be a praise, but he says they're stiff-necked, and because of that, Chassidus explains, that's why there should be forgiveness. Because based on the normal rules, they didn't deserve forgiveness. But Moshe brought down a level of erech hapayim, of a deeper compassion and mercy on them to allow forgiveness. But why should they deserve this? It's because they are unclear, they've got this stiff neck, meaning the strength to do what's right, even when they're not totally feeling it. And that's why they were able to tap into erech hapayim, to Hashem's abundant compassion. Whereas Amalek cuts off that connection. The rest of the 7 nations of Canaan refer to the 7 midas within Klippa. But Amalek and Pare are both in the neck. Pare combats Das Elyon, whereas Amalek is in Das Tachten. And the idea of the neck with Pare, between what we understand in our mind, what we feel in our heart, and in our body. And Hashem said to Yaakov that Anochi eredim Mitzrayim, that I'm going to descend with you into Egypt, and I will also elevate you from there. So the descent into Egypt is into the neck, where it blocks off what we've understood from coming to emotions, and then the aliyah, the elevation afterwards, is when we're then able to push through, and that it permeates our whole being, our emotions and our action, and we reach this good and sweet land, which represents full love and revelation of Hashem. Now Amalek tries to block this from coming through, even though he knows Hashem. He's still Yedei Rabbeinu Mechavan Limrid, but he knows Hashem, but he specifically tries to go against Hashem anyway, not to let what he knows intellectually come into emotions. Whereas Pare denies Hashem. He says, Lo yadati Hashem, I don't know Hashem. And in a way, Amalek is worse in that way, that despite knowing Hashem, it blocks it anyway. It's a bigger chutzpah. And so just the holy way is that even when we're not inspired, we do it anyway. The unholy way of Amalek is even when he knows, he doesn't do it. He doesn't do what he knows to be right anyway. And that's why there's this eternal war with Amalek. And every day we have to fight Amalek. We are not, but during the times of Galus and the times of exile, we're not able to totally uproot this. And therefore we ask Hashem, that Hashem should destroy Amalek. Whereas once we reach the sweet lands, where, in other words, where we develop a full inner love of Hashem, so then we're able to get rid of Amalek ourselves. And that's where we say, Tzimcha Zecher Amalek. In short, so we explained that that Mitzrayim and Amalek block off from our understanding, permeating our emotions, and what we've got to do is, even when we're in a state of achar, a state of the back, follow Hashem anyway in that state, and that's the idea of Kabbalah Sel. And through that, we make Hashem's name and throne complete, that there's a linkage between the concealed worlds and revealed worlds, and Malchus is able to both to descend down to us, to allow us to exist, but still be connected back up with the higher spheres. And this is through this achar, through this following Hashem, even when we're not up to it. So that is the stiff neck that Moshe mentioned when he wanted to, and he achieved atonement for us, that because we're stiff necked, therefore we should be forgiven.